Okay, thank you. Welcome everybody to this new meeting about Italian Jewish treasures around the world. Ufarasta Yama Vaketma Vetsafona Vanegva. And this evening we have here, and we are glad and really emotionated by having here the Museum of Istanbul, the Quincentennial Foundation Museum of Turkish Jews in Istanbul. And we will have with us Nisia Isman Alevi, that is the director and curator of the Quincentennial Foundation Museum of Turkish Jews. Nisia was born in Istanbul and was graduated in cultural heritage and tourism, and she attended advanced curatorial seminars at the AJM, where I had the pleasure of meeting her several times and to hear from her her experience. And also, she studied in the Federal Republic of Germany, and she is right now AGM board member. As you know, AGM is the Association of the Jewish Museums around Europe. She was also a Kaplan Fellow of Yesod Court and has presented in various countries the topics of Jews of Turkey, what is, as you know, perhaps, is called Togarma in the traditional documents about the Turkey. And together with her, we have Metin Delevi, and he was born in 1953 in Istanbul, and he studied computer science and business economics and management at Lion University, and he earned also a master's degree. Right now, after working in several companies in the recent years, he began to write articles and essays on Judaism, history, and the Holocaust and anti-Semitism. And he is write weekly on Jewish newspapers and bulletin of Jewish association, and give lectures about the subject. The subject of the theme of this evening is exactly what is the focus of our meetings. It means the Italian presence in Turkish country and in the several places and cities where growth and flourished the Jewish communities. And differently by the other meeting this evening, I am very excited not just to hear about works, objects, heritages of Italian Jews brought in other countries, but much more the Jewish community, the Italian Jewish community settled in the Turkey and in its several cities. So I am really glad to give the floor to Nisia for introduction of her museum, interesting museum, where, by the way, our Noemi Disegni, the president of the Jewish communities in Italy, was visited really few days ago, if I don't mistake. Because
on Friday we were, yeah, at the museum.
Yes, because I got one picture that testifies that her presence there together with Nisia. So I give the floor to Nisia for this interesting meeting. Thank you for being with us. And the rules are all the same. It means that Nisia and Metin will speak, and the people who want to make them questions can write on the chat, or if they want, at the end of the conversation, the lecture, they can take, if there are the right situation, I will give them the floor of making themselves the questions to our guests. Thank you so much, and I give the floor to Nisia.
Okay, I'm sharing the screen. Do you see it?
Yes, right now we see it.
Okay, because of the notifications, you may see some
sorry,
black
Nisia,
spots.
give me one moment to add something. That as you know, this is our lecture go in English, but there is the way of hearing them, clicking on the bottom on interperiato, and to choose inglese or in Italian. Chi vuole sentirle in italiano queste conversazioni può cliccare su interpretariato e premere italiano, così che può ascoltarle in italiano. Grazie, and sorry, Nisia, but was need.
Of course, thank you. Do you see my screen now?
Yes, we see.
Oh, okay, just a second. I will make some few arrangements. Take it to the bottom. So welcome all. Tonight, two members of the Association of the European Jewish Museums got together, MEIS and the Jewish Museum of Turkey. I would like to talk about our museum, the building, and the permanent collection. Just a second. So, as you may see, this was our the first synagogue, the first museum space that we have in Karaköy. It was called Zülfaris Synagogue, which was dated back to 19th century. And our first main exhibition floor looked like this. And this place was very popular for the weddings once. Many of our grandparents got married in the synagogue. And also, you can see many different wedding invitations in the collection, again in French, in Ladino, or in Turkish. So this was quite a nice space, but then in 2015, museum decided to we decided to move the museum to a new location. Here on the streets on the left side, you can see the signs of the Jewish Museum of Turkey, and on the right-hand side, there's the entrance sign of the museum. And today we take place in Galata area. Here at the back side, you can see the Galata Tower. This is a previous picture, and on the right-hand side, you can see a newer version of the same street. So Galata Tower was one of the major Jewish heritage place that we have, and in the mid 14th century, it was a colony of Genovese. So it was an Italian place at that time as well. Our museum takes place on the street. When you get here, we are on the right-hand side, where we are next to the Neve Shalom synagogue. So Neve Shalom synagogue and the museum is adjacent to one another. This synagogue was built in 1951. It's a pretty new synagogue, actually, but it is the biggest synagogue in Istanbul, an Orthodox one. Most of our ceremonies are held in the synagogue. I got married in the synagogue. My daughters had their bat mitzvah here. There are the circumcision, and many other ceremonies are also taking place in the synagogue. Neve Shalom means oasis of peace, but in its history, it has been attacked for 3 times. The first one was in 1986 during a Shabbat prayer. Terrorists got inside and shot all the people inside. And in 1992, there was an attempt that did not succeed. And in 2003, there was another attack by Al-Qaeda. The reason I'm telling you is that there's a very high level of security. But once you get to the museum, you can also able to see this beautiful synagogue. It's a part of the tour, and Galata is one of the most important places for the Jewish heritage. When you come, you can just keep it in mind. This is from our main floor of the museum, main exhibition, where we talk about more history. And when we talk about the history, also we need to talk about the archaeological pieces that we have in our collection. The first existence in Asia Minor, in Anatolia, started 2,600 years ago. So when we talk about the destruction of the first and the second temple, and the Jews that arrived here were called as Romaniotes Jews. And in Izmir, in Smyrna, we could able to find this oil lamp from Izmir Archaeological Museum and took it on loan about 8 years ago. The reason behind that is that when we display an old archaeological piece in our collection, then people can understand how far back it goes, the history. We cannot present only 18th, 19th, or 20th century of pieces when the story goes very back. Another highlight in our collection are the books. The first printing press in the Ottoman Empire started with Nahmias brothers, with the Jewish people. In our collection, we have a book that dates back to 1512, which is called Midrash Teirim. A special permission was taken from the Sultan to print Hebrew books. That's why there was a print house in Ortaköy region, and many books were printed, and then they were distributed to different cities. It was a kind of hub for that. And also we have Me'am Loes, which is known as the encyclopedia of the Sephardim. Another highlight of our collection is this blood libel degree. As you know, there are blood libel incidents happened in the Middle Ages in various parts of Europe, but those rumors also came to the Ottoman Empire. And there were some uprisings in Kuskunjuk, in Damascus, in Rhodos, and other places as well. So just to remind you what a blood libel is, during the Passover, there's a rumor that small children were kidnapped and their blood was used to make matzot, the bread that we eat during the Passover. And these rumors led to big rebels in different parts of the Ottoman Empire. And in order to suppress this, different sultans made a decree about it, firman about it. And in this firman, it states that, they said that, think of a Jewish society who keeps kosher, which means that they don't eat the blood of an animal, so how come they will eat the blood of a human? So for today, it seems like funny statement, but for that time, it suppressed many rebels. So this original document from 1866 in our collection is quite highlight for us. When we move from the main floor to the ethnographic section, you can see Neve Shalom synagogue from above. So if there is any ceremonies down there, you can also witness the ceremony and become a part of it. That's why this is a passageway to the ethnographic section. And that's the entrance when you come later on, which we have got many Judaica objects, ceremonial objects all around, including the Torah mantles from different parts of Turkey, from Urfa, from Çanakkale, Edirne. You can all see variety of different mapos, paroheads, punteros. They are all in the collection. Also, the Hanukkah is also a highlight of our exhibition, because here you can see two of them are in the shape of a mosque's minaret. So here you can see how two cultures, Islam and Judaism, intermingled. You can see the interaction. No one uses a symbol of another Islamic part maybe in their own collection, but this is quite rare. And then we sent this Hanukkah to Frankfurt Jewish Museum in 2010 for the book fair. Also, it was displayed in the Islamic Art Museum. So also on the top here, you can see Star and Crescent, which is the flag of Turkey. So again, you can see the interaction in this item. And when you look at the materials, that one on the left is brass and the other is tin. I mean, it is not valuable at all in terms of the material. And this is another Hanukkah from Italian synagogue, actually. You can see the floral patterns all around and menorah in the center. This is a Teva cover from Edirne Synagogue. Edirne is the biggest synagogue in Turkey at this moment, but with no congregation left, unfortunately, only one person as I know so far. But again, we have many items from different cities. So the left one is a tzedakah box, and the one on the right is a yacht. So here you can also see that those objects bear witnesses to the existence of a synagogue that no longer survives. So in a way, it is a representation of places that have been closed, lost, erased over time. So the left one is from Balat area, Balat is another important place for the Jewish heritage. You can go to Ahrida and Yambol synagogues to see two very beautiful synagogues. And this Tzedakah box is from Lonca Synagogue, which is not existing anymore. And on the right-hand side, the yad is from Gelibolu, another city close to Çanakkale. And here you can see the ketubot. The ketubot on the left side resembles the Bosphorus. You can see the Bosphorus, the ships are passing through. So as another version of this ketubot takes place in Israeli Museum, and we have the other one. And on the right-hand side, you can see a ketubot from Tekirdağ area and a region which takes place in Thrace, a bit close to the border. Here again, you can see star and crescent, and this is a kind of like a signature of Sultan, as if this is a important document, but it's very naive because you can see the patterns and all kinds of different Ottomanish figures on. We have different Megillat Esther in our collection, the ones with the filigrane, and again another version of it. This Torah mantle is brought from Urfa synagogue, and today there is no Urfa synagogue left. And this is a tick, and the rimonim at the toppers, again, these are silver. The material is silver, and you can see star and crescent on top. Well, the traditional Ottoman bridal dress was red, also purple, also blue, but after the modernization movements from the West, it was adopted later as white, but before it was in green color, in different colors as well. The one on the left is from Smyrna, Izmir, and the one on the right is from Tekirdağ. Again, this is a part from our ethnographic section. And then this is the Torah Ark from Tekirdağ Synagogue. Unfortunately, there is no more Tekirdağ Synagogue left, but this wooden work is a masterpiece, actually, and we wanted to display it in the ethnographic section. We have an open storage room, which we have very different pieces from our collection. They are not connected to one another. It's just a kind of various pieces like the one in the Portuguese synagogue in Amsterdam, a storage room that we have. This is the second floor where we tell where you can find many recipes, food, and you can learn about the high holidays, including the music. You can listen to oral history project in Ladino, and also some music as well. And last but not least is we have a temporary exhibition space at the mikveh part of the museum. This place used to be a mikveh, but we covered the top. It was not used for the past 5 years, so we decided to convert this place into a temporary exhibition space. And now we have an exhibition about Antakya, a city which had a devastating earthquake 3 years ago. And now it is time to remember. Also, we share the pictures of the synagogue, its latest pictures as well. Thank you. Now I would like to answer your questions after it finished. The presentation will finish. Now, Metin, the floor is yours. Good luck.
Just a second. Okay. Good evening to everyone. I want to thank the organizers for the opportunity to speak on this platform. My talk focuses on Italian Jews in the Ottoman Empire and modern Turkey. Historically, this geography included the Balkans and the Middle East, but due to time constraints, I will focus on locations within modern Turkey, leaving aside cities like Salonika and Aleppo. And you'll excuse me, I have to read from the text as there are many dates and names. Our first stop is Edirne or Adrianople. Just a second. Can you see a different slide?
Yes.
Okay. After its conquest in 1363, Ottoman rulers repopulated the city with Jews from newly conquered lands and European refugees, including those from Sicily, Otranto, and Calabria, who were granted substantial tax concessions. By 1433, travelers noted the Sultan's influential Jewish interpreter was fluent in Turkish and Italian, and the city hosted many Venetian, Genoese, and Florentine Jewish merchants. At the beginning of the 15th century, Jews forced to leave Sicily sought refuge in Dubrovnik within the Ottoman Empire. Purchased by the Venetians who occupied the city in 1420, these Jews found safety by fleeing to Edirne. Around 1451, a large group of Italian Jews formed a distinct community to maintain their specific religious services, eventually founding synagogues named Italia, Apulia, and Sicilia, and eventually joined forces with the Jews expelled from Spain in 1492. Ottoman tax register provide us with valuable demographic evidence. A register from 1519 records 8 Jewish communities in Edirne, including one explicitly identified as Napoli. Later registers from the late 16th century list communities named Italia and Sicilia as well. Taken together, these sources suggest that Jews of Italian origin constituted nearly 1/3 of the Jewish population of Edirne at certain times. Among the well-known Italian Jewish names in Edirne, we can see 2 Talmudists, Aaron di Trani and his nephew Moses di Joseph di Trani. Perhaps the most famous figure of this period was Jacopo Gaeta, known as Ekim Yakup. He entered the service of Murat II as chief physician and continued to wield high influence under Mehmet II. His migration to Edirne was fueled by the knowledge that Ottoman society welcomed trained professionals, particularly Jews. In 1554, Edirne also became home to its first printing house, founded by the Yabez brothers, a family originally from Mantua. This again highlights the cultural and intellectual contribution of Italian Jews. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the Italian Jewish identity in Edirne had largely blended into the broader Jewish community. Yet, Italian-descended Jews remained active in education, communal leadership, and even wartime nursing during the Balkan Wars and World War I. They were very active in the non-Jewish social life as well. They even founded an Italian-speaking Masonic lodge called Uhuvet Fraternity. While Edirne's Italian Jewish presence faded over the centuries, their legacy remains in surnames like Mitrani and Romano, 2 of the only 3 Jews still living in Edirne today. From Edirne, we move to Izmir, known historically as Mirna. Beginning in the late 17th century, Izmir became one of the most important destinations for Italian Jews in the Ottoman Empire. This happened at a time when much of Europe was struggling with plagues, economic hardship, and recurring violence against Jews. Many of the Jews who came to Izmir were from Livorno. These Jews arrived not only as refugees, but also as skilled merchants connected to European trade networks. They entered the Ottoman world under a special legal framework known as the capitulations, which allowed European subjects to trade in Ottoman lands with tax advantages and legal protections. This created a new social class, the Francos. These were Jews of Italian origin who remained foreign subjects despite living in the empire. They were often wealthier and more Europeanized than the local Sephardic population. By the early 18th century, the Italian Jews of Izmir had organized themselves around influential figures such as Moses Sono, who financed the construction of a synagogue that still bears. Sonsino exercised considerable authority over communal institutions and customs, and his family remained prominent for generations. Furthermore, in the 18th century, Benjamin Pontremoli, Mordechai Sereni, and Abraham Arditi held rabbinical chairs. The Cassuto families from Fano, Cori, and Taranto are also remembered as influential in the management of the community. And among the tombstones existing in the old cemetery, we find those belonging to the Sforno, Civita, Siena, Romano, and Lombroso families. Apart from these families of Italian origin, who probably came to Smyrna from other Turkish provinces, those who, starting from the 18th century, began to descend directly from Italy, mainly from Livorno and a little from Venice. They opened a separate paragraph in the history of the local community. According to the works by Galante, not only in Smyrna itself, but all around the Aegean region, it is possible to extract several names of people of undoubted Italian origin. The number of immigrations directed toward the Levant, with a particular focus on Livorno and with minor numbers from the Italian mainland, occurred at a time spanning the 19th century, along with any other immigration of a mercantile nature. In a census of Italians abroad in 1871, it was reported the following figures for Italians settled in the Levant. We see to Constantinople 709, to Salonika 27, to Smyrna 377, to Aleppo 123, to Beirut 184, to Alexandria 1476, to Cairo 871, to Hania 38, and to Corfu 32. As for Smyrna, this is a considerable figure. The number of Toscans registered in Izmir in 1845 was 248, and 209 of the 248 registered people were Jews. According to the registers of 1845, it was determined that some Italian Jews lived in neighborhoods together with Muslims. As I said earlier, these Jews benefited from all the commercial privileges of the states they were subject to and did not pay the taxes paid by Ottoman Jews. Therefore, some Ottoman Jews claimed that they were from Tuscany, Ancona, or Austria in order to avoid the poll tax. An Italian historian confirms that in Smyrna in 1885, most of Jewish families of the Italian colony had Livorno as their domicile. Most Jews who came from Livorno to Izmir in the 17th century were conversos, of Portuguese origin. Like those who would come later, they worked for the enlightenment of Ottoman Jews. This attitude triggered social conflicts. From the second half of the 18th century, the Izmir Jewish community began to experience a serious economic depression, and social tensions in the community increased rapidly. One of the reasons for this phenomena was the fact that rich Italian businessmen, the Francos, who were already adapted to the capitalist system, seized the administration and fueled the social conflicts with their reformist attitudes. The small congregation called the Francos kept their relations constant with the European Jewish congregations during the decay of the Sephardic congregation and renewed themselves and played a very important role in the modernization of Sephardic Jews of Izmir with the help of the Alliance schools. The influence of Italian-born people in Jewish community life was even more marked than in other Turkish centers. Within 50 years, 4 Italian-born people were elected as the presidents of the Jewish community: David Taranto, Behor Pontremoli, Nissim Kori, Isaac Kori, and Haim Benjamin Pontremoli had been head of the rabbinical tribunals in the first half of the 19th century, and various rabbis of his own family had officiated after it. Furthermore, the most prominent physician of the city at the end of the century was Dr. Fano Pasha. A report from the Sardinian consulate in 1826 lists 963 Jewish households in Izmir, 153 of which were under the jurisdiction of a European consulate and mainly Italian consulate. In 1871, Attilio Milano reported that 377 Italian Jews and their families resided in Izmir. However, the privileged position of the Francos also generated tension. Wealthy Italian Jews, already familiar with European capitalist practices, often dominated communal administration. Their reformist attitudes and economic power increasingly clashed with the poorer Sephardic congregation. These tensions are vividly documented in a remarkable text published in 1847, Shevat Aniyim, or The Cry of the Poor. Written from the perspective of Izmir's Jewish poor, the work denounces the corruption of communal elites, many of whom were identified as Francos. It criticizes their control over communal taxes and their immunity from local legal authority. This text offers us a rare insight into class conflict within an Ottoman Jewish community. I want to add that a local weekly newspaper, La Esperanza, which was later renamed Buena Esperanza, was published by an Italian subject, Aaron de Joseph Hazan. It was published from 1871 till 1920s with some interruptions. In 1910, following the Tripolitanian War between Turkey and Italy, Italian subjects in Turkey were ordered to leave the country. Those who wished to remain accepted Turkish subjugation. But all this changed after World War I. In Smyrna, World War I, then the Greek incursion of 1920, and the Turkish reconquest of 2 years later opened the way for the immigration of the Jewish community, including the Italian Jews. Today, there are around 1,000 Jews living in Smyrna, including the Jews of Italian descent. I want to finish this chapter mentioning a synagogue built by and for Italian Jews. Located in the heart of the old Jewish quarter, which is the historical marketplace of Izmir, the synagogue was known as with 2 names, Orahim and Foresteros, meaning foreigners or guests. The synagogue was probably built in the 17th century and was active until it was destroyed by a fire. After it collapsed and ceased to function as a synagogue, its courtyard was transformed to a kosher poultry slaughterhouse. And now our last stop, Istanbul, Constantinople. According to historians, the earliest settlement of Jews from Italian cities dates back to the 13th century. Many of them were merchants who settled in Istanbul, particularly in the Galata region. Following extensive privileges granted by Emperor Michael VIII to Venice and Genoa, a new division of the Jewish population emerged, besides the older division into Rabbanites and Karaites, Byzantine, Venetian, and Genoese Jews, inhabiting separate quarters and enjoying different rights and privileges. Under Andronicus II, Venetian Jews settled at Langa, while the Jewish community of the Genoese quarter of Pera resided in the Contrata Judeorum. The first attestation of a grouped settlement of Venetian Jews in Constantinople appears only in 1343. Their quarter, or Judaica, distinct from that of the Byzantine Jews, is named Kappakalea, in a will written in that year. On the same will, we see the existence of a synagogue at the same quarter. At this date, Genoese Jews were still settled in Pera. A small but distinct component in the mosaic of pre-1492 Ottoman Jewry were the Italian Jews, who, with the exception of the Sicilian Jews, followed their own religious ritual known as Mihalk Italiano or Mese bnei Roma. The Sicilian Jews followed a ritual which resembled to that of the Sephardim. Byzantine Jews had a monopoly on tanning, while Venetian Jews were allowed to prepare furs. The synagogue located within the Venetian Jews' quarter served not only as a place of worship, but also as the center of their social and communal life. The structure of the Judaica's institutions becomes clearer from Venetian documentation concerning the early 15th century. At its head was a small council of 6 members called capita. They were elected for a 1-year term. Just to name a famous person from this time, Mordechai Comatiano, author of works on astronomy, grammar, biblical commentaries, and Piyutim, was apparently a Venetian Jew. Mordechai was a teacher of mathematics and did much to advance the study of the exact sciences in the empire. In 1453, one of the very first acts of the conquering Sultan Mehmed II were the issuing of a proclamation with which he invited the Jews from various parts of Turkey to move to the new capital, promising them respect to their institutions, freedom of trade and possessions, and abundance of means of life. This proclamation was heeded especially by the Italian Jews. They moved in numbers from the surrounding cities and even directly from Italy to the new capital. They shortly thereafter arrived to give life to one of the 4 known Jewish communities of Constantinople at the time, precisely called Italia. Benedetto Dei noted in his diary that Mehmed II had a number of key Italian informants, among whom were the Sultan's physician Jacopo Gaeta and Jewish merchant Salamone Cifuti, formerly inhabitant of Cremona. Again, in a letter of thanks penned by the Doge of Genoa, all the agents in Istanbul were praised for their service to the Republic. Among them were the Jewish Genoese merchant Ambrosio Giudice and Haim de Serimo el Ebreo. A small parenthesis. According to some historians, Afife Nurbanu Sultan, wife of Selim II and mother of Sultan Murad III, was from a Jewish Venetian family, and she was originally named Rachel Maria Nasi and was kidnapped from Paros Island during the Third Ottoman-Venetian War and was brought to the Sultan's palace. Mid-16th century, immigrants from Italy formed the Italia, Calabria, Sicilia, Puglia, and Messina synagogues near Balat district. By mid-17th century, after the destruction of the old quarters, forced the Jews immigrated from Italy to leave their quarters and synagogues and began to live among the Spanish Jews and so to become an integral part of the Sephardic communities. Among these communities, we see some rabbis of Italian descent who were prominent in the spiritual leadership of the colony. Among them, the one who rose to the highest position was Joseph di Mosè di Trani from Apulia, who was appointed chief rabbi of Constantinople. Also, we have to mention the Italian rabbis Azriel Salamondaina, Isaac Acrish, Yaakov Romano, Isaac di David, Messer Leon, as well as Joshua Eliezer and Samuel Sonsino, members of the family of the Constantinople printers. The Italy-originated Sonsino family turned Istanbul into one of the leading centers of Hebrew printing in the early modern world. The family dominated printing in Constantinople between 1530 and 1547, and during this period, multilingual Torahs and other religious books were printed. Around the mid-16th century in Constantinople, there was likewise a population of 30,000 Jews and around 5,000 of Italian origin. Two important figures of this period were Joseph Nasi and Gracia Mendes, who before arriving to Constantinople took Venetian nationality. Another important Italian Jew was Salomon Nathan Eskenazi. Towards the end of Nasi's life, Eskenazi gained a prominent position within the Divan. He was born in Udine. After becoming physician to Sigismund in Krakow, he settled in Istanbul. Eskenazi was presented to the Grand Vizier Pasha. Appreciating Eskenazi's merits, the Pasha took him into his service and appointed him physician to the Sultan. He sent him to Venice as an ambassador to conclude a peace treaty on behalf of the Turkish government. In 1586, he signed the treaty between Turkey and Spain on behalf of Sultan Murad III. Even during the reign of Mehmed III, Eskenazi rendered important services to the country. According to the archives, in 1608, in Istanbul, there was 4 Italian congregations with 209 households on a total Jewish population of 2,195 households, almost 10% of the total Jewish population. These 4 congregations founded by immigrants from Italy were Messina, Calabria, Sicilia the Great, and Sicilia the Little. Through the 16th and part of the 17th, we see an understanding and rapprochement of the rabbinate of Constantinople to the Karaim. There was a rigid opposition from the Apulia community, who went too far as to excommunicate anyone who had any educational relation with them. As for the combined profession of physician and diplomat, we can cite Israel di Joseph Conegliano, born around 1650 and receiving a doctorate in Padua. In 1675, he went to Constantinople as a physician, where he managed to gain the good graces of Grand Vizier of Mehmed IV. Conegliano continued to remain in Constantinople as a private physician, coming to be considered the first among the local doctors. His mediation was particularly influential in the preliminary discussions that led to the conclusion of the peace treaty of Karlovy Vary in 1699 between Ottomans on the one hand, and Austria, Poland, Russia, and Venice on the other. According to the register from 1688-89, which contains the poll tax records of Jews residing in and around Istanbul, 63% of the taxpayers were members of communities registered under the those who came naturally category. On it, we see the same Italian communities. The 18th century was also marked by the arrival of the Francos, Jews from Italy with very Europeanized customs, who secured the protection of foreign consuls. Now let's look at more recent events. Around the 1850s, various Jewish groups living in the Ottoman Empire showed a tendency to separate themselves from the main body of Judaism in order to flee from the authority of the Turkish chief rabbinate. One of these was the foreign Jewish community under Italian protection, which for a while occupied an important position in Jewish affairs in Constantinople. Two separate incidents are cited as reasons for the community's desire to disband. One is when a very high price was demanded from the deceased family for a very modest funeral, forcing the family to sell their jewelry to pay. The other is when an Italian Jew, Daniel Fernandez, was asked to contribute a very large sum of money to the community for the marriage of a relative. Regardless of the event that caused it, Daniel Fernandez and Emanuele Veneziani, who opposed the arbitrarily high wage demands, resigned and decided to establish a new community. Sorry. They applied to the representative of the Kingdom of Italy at the Subdin port on the 24th February 1862. But a phrase on the application letter for 25 years. Is there a problem with my voice?
No, we hear very well, but we are close to the end of the meeting. So
I have 5 minutes left.
My 5 minutes, no more.
Okay. But a phrase on the application letter for 25 years, a community of Israelis foreigners, in the majority originally from Italy, has been living there, shows that this community officially or non-officially existed since 1837 or around this year. Either way, this request was accepted on May 2nd, 1862. Now I read from the rest from the congregation's brochure. In order to acquire official status for this new community, the leaders applied to Comandante Ceruti, representative of the Italian kingdom at the Serai, and requested the protection of that jurisdiction. In a letter dated 2nd May 1862, Comandante Ceruti forwarded to the community leaders his government's decision dated 16th April 1862. The Italian government is ready to acknowledge the community legally and protect its religious freedom on the condition that its members keep their Italian citizenship. Since receiving the protection of the Italian government, the community has been known as the Foreign Jewish Community of Constantinople under the Italian protection, or in Italian, Comunità Israelitico-Straniera di Costantinopoli sotto la protezione italiana. The first synagogue was opened on Zülfaris Street, but this building collapsed, so the community hired another building in the flea market. As this place was far from the center where the Jewish community lived, they disapproved of its use as a synagogue. Then they moved to another place until the community leaders succeeded in convincing the board members to buy a building plot for a new synagogue. As a result, a plot was bought on Şahsuvar Street. The synagogue is still in use to this day. At that time, the community didn't have enough money to build a synagogue. About the same time, a stockbroker named Emanuel Salem joined the foreign Jewish community of Istanbul, having resigned from the Galata. He suggested issuing bonds valued at 1 lira to be redeemed gradually over the years. The project was accepted, the money collected, the construction started, and was completed despite many difficulties. The Secretary General Leone Piperno made every effort to see the project through to completion. When the roof was finished, there was still one further step. The quarter's imam stated that they had no objection to having a synagogue in their area. The official construction permit for the synagogue was then issued, dated 10th March 1885. The members of this community started to be known as Los Francos and the synagogue as Cal de los Francos. For more than 160 years, the Italian synagogue has continued to offer its services. Today, the Italian Jewish community is known internationally as the Comunità Ebraica Italiana. As for the Jewish Italian cemetery, in 1865, the community leaders, through the good offices of the Italian kingdom's representative at Israel, requested from the Ottoman government a plot to be used as a cemetery. In response to this request, Sultan Abdulaziz gave a land on 13 October 1867. The first burial was made there in 1868. The cemetery is still used by Jews with mainly foreign nationality living in Istanbul. During this period, I have to mention the interventions on behalf of the Italian community of Camondo family, whose members were either Italian citizens or under Italian protectorate and were known as the Rothschilds of the East. From the Jewish newspapers and documents, we see that the Italian community had ups and downs in their relations with the other Jewish institutions. An interesting point, during 1930s, the secretary of the community personally traveled to Rome and obtained special exemptions for the Italian Jews of Turkey. But the implementation of the 1938 laws, although they had virtually no discriminatory effect in Istanbul, nevertheless created a deep emotional rift and identity wound. To conclude, Italian Jews were never the largest Jewish group in the Ottoman Empire, but they were often among the most influential. They connected worlds, Europe and the Ottoman East, tradition and modernity, commerce and culture. I would like to end with a small but telling anecdote. You must all know the Italian cheese Cariocavallo. Italian Jews brought it to the Balkans and the Ottoman Empire and renamed it Kashkaval. And as the Jews produced it as kosher, this name entered into the Turkish vocabulary as kashar. I thank you for your attention. I just finished.
Yes. Thank you so much. It was really impressive how many important and relevant personalities from Italy came in Turkey. Thank you so much also for explaining the different communities in Edirne, Smyrna, and Istanbul as well. Really, we have now I'm seeing your bibliography that mentioned Giacomo Sabban, that was the chief president of the Roman Jewish community, and also the director of the Caesar Rassegna Mensile di Israel and many other things, was the first person of greetings and welcoming the Pope at the synagogue. And there are interesting questions that I would like to make reading the chat, and I go.
I am stopping the
You can
presentation?
stop. You can stop the sharing the screen. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay, fine.
Thank you. I want to see which are the first one was about the word Francos. Why the Italian people were called Francos? What was
Okay.
meaning? Was meaning the name
In
Francos?
Ottoman Turkish, Frank meant foreign Jews.
Okay.
Frank was the name of the foreign Jews. So the Sephardic people changed it to Franco.
Okay.
So,
Okay. But they
so
didn't.
from Frank to Franco.
Okay, but the words didn't mean just the Sephardic Jews. Also, if there were
Foreign Jews.
foreign, just
Francos,
foreign. Also, Ashkenazic Jews coming from Italy were called Francos.
mainly Italian Jews.
Italian Jews also Ashkenazic one, because among
Of course,
them
not
there's
Sephardic.
okay.
All the Italian Jews.
All the Italian Jews, I see. Another question that I think this is to make Tunisia is about the funds. Are them are funds from the government in order to restore or to refurbish the synagogues and other Jewish sites in Turkey?
The state does not maintain any funds for the private museums, but we do the funding on behalf of ourselves, and we always find them from Europe or within the country, so we manage it.
Okay, without the help of the government.
No private museums are supported by the
Okay,
state.
I see. Another question was which language were speaking the Jews arriving there in Turkey? It means they kept to speak in Italian or in Ladino or something like this, or in short generation they began to speak in Turkish.
Until the 19th or 20th, beginning 20th century, the Italian Jews still spoke Italian. As I told you, for instance, the Sicilian ones had a special ritual, Minhag Italiano,
Okay.
Bnei Roma.
Okay.
It was in
By the way,
Italian.
okay, by the way, in this synagogue that you mentioned before, that was established at the end with the community as well, did they make the services in Italian right or not?
In Italian, right?
In Italian right, even
Masor Bnei Roma.
Bene Roma,
was.
okay, Masoret Bene Roma. I see that there are perhaps other questions, but I think that end our time. So yes, there are. Everybody is thanking you for your lectures, and I have just to say the next appointment, the meetings that will be on the next month on the March 12th. We have the meeting with the Museo Umberto Nahon of the Italian Jewish community in Jerusalem. And on April 16, we will have the meeting that we are waiting for because it's the first time that we present to you together with the Jewish Museum of Greece. And the last one we're going to be on May 14 with the Youth Cultural Quartiers, the Jewish Cultural Quarter of Amsterdam, with the Jewish community and the most important museum among the most important museums in Europe of Amsterdam. I think that I end all the relevant information that I had to give you, and I want to thank all the directors and the institution who permitted us to have this meeting, our guests, and the director of the Italian Jewish Museum that together with them we are organizing these lectures and meetings, and for the crowded presence of the people that we reached the peak of 200 people connected, and our friends that for the first time were connected from Turkey and other countries around the world, hearing perhaps their ancestors' stories. And I hope to see them again in the next meetings of March, April, and May. And that's it. Thank you so much for everybody, and go to Istanbul to visit the Quincentennial Museum and Nisia as well. Thank you for everybody.
Thank you.
Ciao a tutti. Grazie.
Ciao, ciao, Nisia, grazie
Ciao.
tante, grazie.
Grazie a te.